Guy Verhofstadt attacks the new blue British passports, the BBC bias against Brexit continues, and Dominic Cummings is attacked by the civil service. As you must have heard over the last few days, the Home Office have now fully introduced their new blue British passports, something that a lot of Brexiteers were looking forward to. It's all about the nostalgia of when the British passport used to be blue and it didn't have the words European Union on them. So that's now going to be officially out from March. As you can see, we had Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, obviously showing her new British passport. At the same time, we have a situation where the BBC have already tried to undermine this new initiative. In part of one of the articles talking about the new passports, they said that other nations who have blue passports include Israel, Iraq, Syria, and North Korea. Now, we know exactly what they were trying to do and say. Firstly, they missed out the United States of America, but that's actually on purpose. And they put all these certain countries on the same list, and somehow Israel, because apparently Israel is as bad as North Korea and Syria, to basically say, well, look what the British are doing. They are basically using an example of these crazy countries to have their passports blue. So that's ridiculous. But the problem that we have yesterday, actually, was Guy Verhofstadt, one of our favourite Remainers from the European Parliament, who decided to go on Twitter and tweet this. He said, "Have we found the British bonus? A new colour #blue passport which reduces rights made by a French-Dutch company in Poland." Now, we are going to talk about the production of this passport in this video, but before we start doing that, the main bit of the tweet was, this new passport reduces rights. How exactly? I've been asking this from a lot of Remainers on Twitter. No one can actually answer this question properly because they say we are no longer allowed to actually travel to Europe, live there, work there. Why? Are you banned? Well, there's absolutely no reason that you can't do that. The same way that right now you could literally get a job, move to America or Canada and live there, get a house. You could do the same thing in Germany, in France, or any other place that you want to. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. You just have to basically apply for a job, get a house, move there if you want to. So that hasn't changed. But in terms of the production of the passports, yes, the company that's making these new passports is obviously a French-Dutch company, Gemalto. These contracts will save up to £120 million, between 100 to 120 million pounds. Now, Gemalto is a security firm that's based in Paris. And the reason for this contract is actually, well, obviously to save money, but there is a main reason behind it. And that's actually because, firstly, Gemalto they're going to have obviously new factories based in the UK, and that will create up to 70 new jobs, British jobs, as they would say. And at the same time, there are a lot of people who say this should have been produced by a British firm. Yeah, and that's a fair point. And I'm obviously a free trade Brexiteer. I'm an internationalist. And the tweet that we had from Guy Verhofstadt, that's the whole problem, because he is assuming that Brexiteers are all stupid and Brexit is all about being isolationist, anti-internationalism. And there's a difference between internationalism and globalism. I'm not a globalist in that sense, but I believe in international trade. And yes, at the same time, I would have preferred if these passports were produced by a British firm. But firstly, the new factories are going to be based in the UK, and that will be helping UK jobs and British workers, so that's fine. Secondly, the reason we couldn't have a British firm doing it, or basically picking a British firm over these guys, is actually because of the European Union. So it's not the fault of the UK government or the Home Office. Yes, Matt Hancock has said that this is actually because of the EU procurement rules, and has suggested that post-Brexit, the UK would be able to award government service contracts to British firms. Basically because the EU laws on public procurement state that the award of contracts by EU countries must be non-discriminatory to prevent bi-national policies and promote free movement of goods and services between EU countries. And that's a fair point, because the rules are clear, and we were still a member of the European Union when we signed these contracts, so the basically Home Office didn't really have a choice. But no one is actually talking about this. No one in the mainstream media are explaining this. And this is why we're doing this on this channel, because there's a lot of misinformation going around. And the problem we have is, for example, the BBC. They create their own narrative. You saw what they did with the creating a list of certain countries to say that, well, the British passport is going to be basically terrible as these really bad countries like Israel, apparently. But the BBC bias against Brexiteers have been going on for a long time. Now, you remember Geeta Gurumurthy, one of the BBC presenters, she was at the Brexit victory rally and Brexit Night, interviewing some Brexiteers, and she basically said this is a white crowd, and she basically insulted the whole crowd, saying you're all white, basically. And there were a lot of complaints against her. Now the BBC have now come out and defended her, saying she didn't do anything wrong. And firstly, let's watch the actual clip from Brexit Night to remind you of what she said.
Looking at the crowd, it is a very white crowd mostly, and when you say fly the flag, you know, to many, the whole Brexit debate has remained been about immigration, and it's not been a welcoming view.
Yes, now the BBC are backing this presenter, saying that she didn't actually do anything wrong, and she can just continue with her job as usual. So they did receive more than 200 complaints, but that's not even the point, because regardless of if you send one complaint or 1,000, if they want to defend one of the people, then they could always do it. They don't really care about the narrative, the false narrative that they are creating in the country. And this is why a shake-up is necessary. The shake-up that people like Dominic Cummings are starting, whether it's to reform the civil service or the BBC or obviously the Supreme Court, all these areas are needed. And we have a new government that's going to be pushed to actually deliver for the people. This is according to Dominic Cummings and his team. So we have a lot of people, civil servants and special advisors who have had it kind of too good until now, for the last few years, especially since 2016, between 2016 and 2019, when the government was just basically distracted and busy with the Brexit negotiations. They didn't really get anything else done. Now, Dominic Cummings is quite tough on them. He says you have to work harder. These departments are there to actually help people. Now he's getting attacked by the civil service. Yes, as you can see, the special advisors are complaining about Dominic Cummings, and Dominic Cummings just basically said you have to just basically toughen up. This is a tough job and you have to do it. This was a response that he had to claims that special advisors have been seeking counselling for stress-related issues, and he just suggested that you just need to be tough, because this is a tough job. If you can't take it, you don't have to do this job. You could leave and get a more relaxing job. As he said, the responsibility of this government is to deliver for the people, and he's also added that their departments were in charge of billions of pounds, and that high standards should be expected when you're in this job. And he's absolutely right, because this is not a game. These government departments and the Downing Street in general, especially now with the post-Brexit Britain that we have created, the people who voted for Boris Johnson and his government, they expect these promises to be delivered. And it's not for everybody. Like, if they offered me a job as a special advisor, I don't think I can do it. So I'm not going to pretend that everybody should basically be more deserved to actually get this job and work for the government. No, if you can't handle it, don't do it. And there are a lot of other kind of easier jobs to do in politics. I'm not going to actually mention them in case I insult someone. But we need this shake-up at the moment, whether it's the BBC or the civil service. And the European Union are obviously being ridiculous with the negotiation stance, and this is why they send people like Guy Verhofstadt to cause trouble on Twitter, to basically insult the British people, the British voters, and our new blue passport for some reason. So this is Guy Verhofstadt and his new hobby, which is to basically just insult people. So that's fun. But we have a lot to talk about in the next few days. So make sure, if you haven't joined us yet, subscribe to the channel and click on that bell next to it so you get notified. We have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. If you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, listen to my daily rants about Brexit and current affairs, you can find the details on the screen down here. As always, I'm Tousi. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video.